Hi Joe, how are you?
I'm fine, Andre. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for meeting me today. Um, I just wanted, first of all, just for people that don't know, I'm sure everyone knows who you are. If you just want to introduce yourself and just a little bit about you.
Okay, so my it's Joanna, but everyone knows me as Joe, Joe Fawcus, and I'm Chief Operating Officer at Northampton General Hospital. Came here on the 2nd of March was my first day. So this is month 4, and before that I was at Kettering General Hospital for 2.5 years. So not new to the Chief Operating Officer role, but still relatively new to Northampton.
How are you enjoying Northampton so far?
It's great. Everyone's been really welcoming. Everyone's really quite excited and you know, up for challenge and change, really, which is interesting after the year that we've just had.
Yeah. How have you found, kind of coming on the back of COVID, how have you found your role changing slightly and the new pressures and new challenges? How have you found that?
Well, I mean, gosh, the last year has been incredible, hasn't it? But what's been incredible is watching, our staff's response and, how my role has been even more important in supporting our frontline teams, the importance of visibility with the team, and being out there and, making sure that everyone's got what they need. So, not that we weren't, not that I wasn't concentrating on being visible before, but it's been really crucial in the last year, and obviously that support now to teams to help recover, help restore services, help refocus, and plan for going forward. It's even more important than it's ever been.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I connected with you for work with one of the staff networks, which
Yeah.
is LGBTQ plus network. Um,
Yes.
and I was really thrilled that you offered to be executive sponsor of that. So for everyone's background, all of the networks have their own exec who is a sponsor of them. And they don't necessarily have to be a member of that community, but they will just be a champion basically for it and offer board approval, I suppose, and be a good champion for it.
Yeah.
So I'd love to really know why that resonated with you and where you felt that now was the time to kind of jump in and help out with that, and just your thought process around that, really.
A couple of things, really. So I guess my own personal journey on this really started when I undertook the NIBEVN leadership course, which I started in, I think it was 2014. When you have to look at yourself, really, and look at yourself as a leader, and how open are you as a leader, and how people need to know you. So that was the part of that was the start of the journey. So I wasn't very open about my own sexuality. So it's not easy. It's not easy to be open about who you are. So I started really thinking about that, and then thinking about how I could tackle that. And it's been a long journey, so I'm not saying it's easy. And I feel very comfortable with all of that now. But I had to test things. I had to do things on my own journey to feel comfortable with that. So that was part of the journey. And then when I started at Kettering, I volunteered to be the exec lead, not because I am a member of the community, but because it's really important for patient care and our staff engagement and our staff feeling valued and included in the organisation. The other thing I learned on NIBEVN really clearly was that this impacts on patient outcomes. So if our patients don't feel they can be themselves, whether they're attending for outpatient treatment, whether they're in A&E, wherever they are in the organisation, there's been evidence and studies, hasn't there, that patients don't come back for treatment, don't feel they're able to discuss their options, and all sorts of things. I'm not going to go into all of that, but you know what I'm trying to say. And the same for staff. If staff don't understand what it means to be a member of, the community, or if they don't understand, the patients they're treating, that will have an effect on their outcomes. So it's really important to me from various aspects. And if I'm a patient as well, so I can be a patient at any time. And if I go into an organisation and I feel welcomed and included, and I see someone wearing a rainbow badge, I will think that that person is someone I can go to talk to, who understands and will support me as a patient or a member of staff. Not that they're wearing a badge because they think being gay is okay or whatever, because there's misconception about that. So, all of those things are really important to me as an individual. I'm happy to support any of the networks, but I feel that I have got a responsibility to do that.
Thank you. We're really glad that you do. I always find it an interesting one about the whole coming out, particularly at work. I don't know if you probably have the same, because you don't come out once, do you?
No, it's not every day.
Every day. So it's difficult, and I don't know about you, but I've met people and not told them that I always get I don't know, sometimes you don't, I don't know.
Sometimes you don't know. I mean, it's not like you walk into a room and go, "Hi everyone, I'm Joe and I'm gay."
Yeah. But sometimes you can feel a bit awkward about it, I think.
Yes.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But that's exactly why we do what we do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, in general conversations at work and meetings, you don't need to worry about that, because, you're there to do your job and all the rest of it. But I feel if anyone asks me, or we get into a conversation about, life and personal life and all that stuff, I feel comfortable and confident to talk about it. And that's the difference now, whereas previously I didn't.
When did you come to terms with it? Not come to terms, that sounds weird, but you know what I
mean. I guess really, do you know what? If I'm really honest, it was really only when I started at Kettering.
Wow.
That I really thought, you know what, I've really got to just embrace this now, because I'm a senior leader in the organisation and people need to know who I am.
Yeah.
And I was in a conversation a few months ago with some individuals I didn't know, and they asked me a question about my own personal story, and I was really honest, and they went, "Wow, gosh, you're really honest. That's really brave." And I said, "No, it's not brave. You need to know who I am, because that's really important." And I wouldn't have done that 3 or 4 years ago. So that's why I'm saying it takes a long time, and everyone's got their own journey. Some people are comfortable with it, yeah, fine, but others need time, and I needed time, and now I'm just like, this is me. If you don't like it, then you've got the problem.
I find just an interesting dynamic for you, maybe something to think about. Do you think, with your position being so senior, do you think that offers a level of privilege with coming out? I don't know, it's just a question.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
You probably are right. It's probably much easier for me than it is for people at different levels and in different industries, different sectors.
Yeah.
Look at the sporting world. Where it's seemingly difficult for someone that plays football to admit that they're, gay. So I think you're right. And again, that's another role of mine. It doesn't matter what anyone does at NGH. Everyone's role is important. Everyone plays their part in how the organisation works, and they should feel comfortable. If they want to tell people, that they should feel comfortable and confident to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the work that we're doing is slowly getting there. I think it's difficult with the LGBT community as opposed to the main community. I mean, I don't have to come out as black, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more obvious. But it kind of doesn't take away from the nuances and the kind of the problems that can happen, that can be a little bit subverted and a little bit not in your face. I mean, it took me a while to come to terms with the fact that just because people aren't kind of shouting at me, that there isn't an undertone of discrimination. Does that make sense? And I think particularly with an organisation like the NHS, which historically has been quite slow, has been quite set in its ways, I think it's just a difficult place to navigate. But that's why we need senior leaders like you who are championing it. And I mean, we've got our first meeting next week, haven't we?
Yes.
Which is exciting.
Yeah, and
I think in there we'll be able to give people a platform and give people a voice.
Yeah, absolutely, because I want to hear if people feel discriminated against because of their sexuality. We need to know, and we need to understand how that's happening. If people don't tell us, we don't know. Um, I've experienced abuse from people, but never knowingly experienced discrimination. So I want to understand what that feels like for people. So what I mean by that is that I've never knowingly missed out on an opportunity because, I'm gay or whatever. It may have happened, and certainly when I got the job at Kettering, I was really open with Simon about my own sexuality, and it was like, yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, it's great to have you on board, and that's fantastic. And that was really like, wow. And everyone at KGH, made me feel fantastic about all of that. So that also helps. So I think with people here at NGH, if they, our staff hear that, hopefully it will give them the confidence that, they can be who they are.
Yeah. When you came out at work, I suppose, did you feel, what was the difference that you felt while you were working? Did you feel you were performing better? Were you just happier? Just for people to see what can happen if you do it.
Yeah, definitely, because when you try and hide who you are or hide your life, you've got to work hard at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you are, I certainly feel much happier, and just it's like a weight off your shoulders, and you are you are different at work. People notice a difference, and you can talk comfortably, openly. You feel confident in what you do. It does have an impact, and that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. That will really have a big impact on all of our staff, and patients will see that. People who are happy at work, it's much different for our patients.
Yeah, that's true. I like that you bring it back to the patients, because at the end of the day, that is what we're doing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it feels hard when you're trapped in an office all day, but
yeah, I know.
you can't lose sight of that. On another note, with regards to, so we speak a lot about gay, lesbian, and talk a lot about sexualities. When I'm just thinking about transgender people and
Yes.
how comfortable they are and what we can do as a trust to support them. I mean, I was watching a video about, and it was a toilet scenario, which we always hear, don't we? Of
Yes.
which one do they use? What's your view on that, and how do you think you could support transgender people from an operational point of view?
Yeah, I think there's loads to do in that space, Andre. I don't think we've done enough. And I think we need to talk to our transgender community and ask them to help us.
Yeah.
Because there's no point me saying what we need to do, or other people saying what we need to do. We need to talk to our transgender community, our transgender patients, ask them about their experiences, what we could do differently. I think I talked through with you an example of something that happened, a patient experience when they needed to be admitted, and there was a whole debate about which gender bed that patient went into, which was just not appropriate. The patient identified as female and should have gone into a female bed. It should never have been a conversation. So we need to address that and understand what our transgender patients need, and I want to do that. And if I was a member of that community, if I come into NGH, I want to know that I'm going to get great care.
Yeah.
And I don't understand all of all of their needs, and I really do want to.
Yeah.
So I don't know everything, and I never say I do. I mean, obviously that's obvious. But we've got an important role there. So we're starting our network now. What's our work plan around that? How are we going to address that? And we've got to play catch up, don't we? Because we're so we've got a lot to do in that space.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's stuff been done on all of our policies and so on. But the real stuff will come from the feedback and involving our patients and our staff in that.
Yeah, I agree, and I definitely understand the catch up. I mean, there's a lot, but I think we're I think we're open and learning, and I think that's the most important thing. We're open to it, and we just want to be able to support everyone as best we can. And it can be hard, but I think we spent so long worrying about just patients. We kind of lost sight of the staff looking after the patients. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it
Doesn't it?
does. Yeah, and there's a lot of misconceptions, Andre, about everything. And we've got an important role in the network to educate our staff as well. And, we need to use our patients and our patients' carers, patients' families in that. And there's loads of resource out in the community, and they want to come and help, so let's embrace it. I'm not frightened to ask for help.
And we're approaching Q Space, aren't we?
Yes, and I did talk to you about Q Space at Kettering when we rolled out the rainbow badge. Staff had to undergo the Q Space training to get the badge, which was really, really important. And in fact, I had a conversation with someone yesterday about what the badge meant, because they said, well, I support our gay and transgender communities. I don't have a problem with that. I said, I know, but you need to wear the badge to show that anyone can come and talk to you. They can approach you. You're a friend. It's not about support. Obviously, we staff need to know you support them, but they know you're there to talk to and can provide help and advice and guidance, and that you are a safe space. Someone can come and talk to you safely. Right. So, and they said, oh, wow. So there is definitely a gap.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, I think. And I think the problem when you get a badge as well, it becomes a little bit, oh, I've got another badge,
I know it's really tokenistic, and I want to get away from that. It shouldn't be. It's a really important badge, and QSpace were excellent in highlighting the importance of that badge, and also just their knowledge, because I still feel confused about some of the terminology and what people are feeling and facing out there. So it was great for me to learn, as well.
Yeah, no, it's true. We're always learning. I mean, I always say with even the term LGBTQ+, there's so many letters that we can add in, and
I know. Yeah.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
I find it really confusing. It's really hard to keep up.
It's really hard to keep up.
Yeah. You don't. We're not purposely trying to upset anyone.
I know, and I don't want to offend anyone at all. And I can see why people are a bit, wow, it's just so much to take in. But it's okay to say, I don't know, please tell me.
Absolutely, and I think that's what we want to set the network up as kind of not a hub of necessarily just fountain of knowledge, but just one that's an open, safe space for people.
Yes.
And I think that's really important. On to you a little bit more, and how your kind of personal journey was. I think people might find it interesting to hear about your kind of realizations about your sexuality. I know I can speak about mine as well. I wonder whether that would help people who might be going through that as well.
Yes. I'm happy to talk about it. I guess I grew up in Northern Ireland.
I thought you were Scottish. Me and Tracy.
No, I grew up in Northern Ireland. I lived in Scotland for a while, so in fairness, there's a bit of Scottish in there. So when I grew up, I mean, Northern Ireland at the time was, in the midst of the Troubles, and it's a very white-dominated society, and very. I mean, I wouldn't say homophobic, but there's certainly, my parents weren't homophobic, but I could see and hear homophobia around me. And my mum and dad have always been, just you have to respect everyone, and they've been great. I mean, my mum's 82 now, and she's probably the most LGBTQ plus friendly person in the world. She's marvelous, my mother.
Really?
Yeah, she's brilliant. Yeah, and she's a role model for anyone really in that space. But yeah, it was. Well, I went to an all-girls school as well. That was really difficult because you've always got this, when you have those feelings, and if you tell people, and then everyone thinks, oh, because I'm female, then you must automatically want to go out with me, and it's like, no. don't. It's really difficult. It really is difficult. So I sort of grew up in really difficult circumstances around that. And I guess it was only really when I left home that I began to explore that. And, I was in my sort of 20s when that happened. And, I regret that because I think, you have to explore your sexuality when you're younger and embrace it. So I guess in many ways, a bit of a late starter in that space. And then, as I say, started to explore that in my 20s, but it was a very painful journey because it was all a bit secret. So, didn't really tell anyone, and then got the courage up to talk to some friends, and, that was okay, but very difficult, and didn't really share much with my family either, but started on that journey, and I guess probably, only, as I said to you, only 3 years ago, really felt comfortable in that journey. So that's taken me a very long time. So I would encourage others not to take that long, really, but to embrace, to talk to people, to seek help and advice, because there are lots of people that can do that. And now, I'm really comfortable with all of that. And, I was in a long-term relationship with someone, and, I'm single now, split up. And in one way that's scary, but in another way it's exciting because I can start again and meet someone new. So that's really exciting as well. So my advice is don't wait. Always explore how you feel, because you will feel happier. Trying to not ignore it or whatever just doesn't help.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's a good message as well. I just had a breakup as well, so I know what you're going through. A bit annoying actually, but but I think it's possibilities, isn't it? And I just wanted to touch on what you were saying when you were at school and girls would just think that you want to kiss them. There's such a hypersexualization of the LGBT community, which is just awful, to be honest. Because I went to a boys' school,
right,
and luckily I didn't really suffer from anything. I think I had quite a quick mouth and short temper, so people probably
you were straight in there.
It was So I think I was lucky there, but I don't know about you, but I was quite embarrassed to be the kind of stereotype.
Yes, that's a really good point. Yeah.
And I think so. I mean, obviously, I'm mixed race. My parents are split up. I grew up with a single mother. And I was just like, it's such a stereotype, isn't it? And then I didn't want to kind of live up to that. And I think it took me a while to actually not embrace the stereotype, but to kind of detach it away and be comfortable with just me. And that is just how I am,
Yeah.
And I did feel better when I kind of came out at uni.
Yeah.
It was really random because I was on a night out in Freshers Week.
Yeah.
I'd spent the whole week not telling anyone, and I'd said to myself for a couple of months before that I was just going to say it, like I was just going to come out and say it, and I didn't. And then I had like one too many tequila shots one night, and this girl who would have ended up being my housemate the following year just said, "Are you gay?" And I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
And I felt amazing, and it's really random how good I felt. And I actually probably ran around telling loads of people. And I want people to have that experience of feeling accepted. And you're not always going to get it. I definitely haven't had like a welcome party from everyone. But I think as a whole, I'm more honest, and therefore I'm more open, and people feel that, don't they? And I think people get more out of you, and you get more out of them. So that is one thing that I'd like to tell everyone. Is there anything you want to touch on?
I think you're right. I think you made a really good point there about, the hypersexualization thing and people's misunderstanding of stuff, It's incredible. And I know a lot of that is culture driven and, all the rest of it, but and how, what you've heard as you've been growing up and so on. But it's acceptance, isn't it? And, if I'm heterosexual, I don't feel the need for acceptance in that context because, it's deemed as normal, which is ridiculous. it shouldn't matter who we, live with, marry, love, or whatever. That's actually no one else's business but our own. But somehow it's, we're gay, it's everyone's business. But we need to change that, and people just need to feel confident, as you've said, and just say, yes, I'm gay, and what of it?
I agree. And it's a shame even having to have this conversation is like bad, isn't it, really?
I know. Yeah. And the thing, having a network, you might say as well, do we need, gosh, why do we need all these networks? Well, because,
So there's a long journey, but I think we'll get there. I hope so anyway. But yeah, we do need more support. And for people that are watching, I would just say, come speak to us. If you're like scared or worried, come and speak to, Joe, speak to myself, speak to any of the networks, and just feel comfortable. Don't suffer in silence. Absolutely, because that's the worst thing, as we know. So yeah, anything you want to add, Joe?
No, I totally agree with you. We're all here. Me, you, as you've said. I can honestly say that all the exec team, would be behind that as well. We don't want people to be suffering. Gosh, no. And that's totally wrong, because that can lead to all sorts of things for people, and I just don't want that. I want everyone to be happy and coming to work, and they need to talk about anything, so, and feel comfortable to do that. Stop me in the corridor, just talk to me, because I want to hear. And as you've rightly said, we're all here to give advice and support as well. It's not easy, and not even at work, but just out in the big bad world. It's not easy, is it?
Yeah.
And it's awful when you go through your first relationships, and even now trying to meet someone and do all of that. It's like, it's a minefield, and
in a pandemic as well.
In a pandemic, yeah. It's really, really, it's hard work. It's really difficult. So, just talk to us, because we're here.
Thank you so much.